Okay, guys. Today, I want to talk with you something very interesting. As we all know, the global technology war has begun. The US Secretary of Commerce once said that the United States has formulated two strategies to deal with competition from China in chips. One is an offensive strategy and the other is a defensive strategy, and the United States will always adhere to this approach. Then, as we can see, the United States has imposed chip sanctions on China one after another. Some people are worried, if all China's armament chips are only 14 nanometers, and the US armament chips are 5 nanometers, will there be a big gap in their performance in war? Is there a difference between military chips and commercial chips? Will the key point of having a chip lie in the manufacturing process? Okay, that and more is exactly what we are going to talk about. Let's get started. Some people always equate missiles with mobile phones. They think that if all chips in China are 14 nanometers, then all chips in the United States are 5 nanometers. There is no doubt that the United States will defeat China with absolute advantages on the battlefield. In fact, based on the current situation, as of 2022, the reality is the opposite of what they think. In many military fields, the chips in China's active military equipment are more advanced than those of the United States. The actual situation is likely to be that American fighter jets use 90 nanometers chips, while China uses 45 nanometers chips. At present, China's military chips are indeed not 14 nanometers, and many are even 130 nanometers. By the way, 28 nanometers chips are already very unsafe for military use, let alone 5 nanometers. Do you know how difficult it is to upgrade aircraft systems? Because the aircraft system has a large number of professional chips such as ASIC, FPGA, and ASSP, but there are very few general-purpose chips such as CPU, GPU, and DSP. Chips such as ASIC, FPGA, and ASSP are all programmed by hardware, which means that the logic of the chip is fixed during design, and different tasks will be completed by performing different arrangements and combinations on the circuit board. This kind of chip is a dedicated chip, and they are only responsible for professional and efficient, full-time fixed tasks. This kind of chip is not complicated, and it is very common to use 300 nanometers for some chips with very poor working environment. In addition, the chips used in satellites, space shuttles, and space stations launched by various countries are often many generations behind. If there is a scientific research task, the astronauts usually bring a laptop up there, because the computer on board the spacecraft or space station is too backward and unreliable. In fact, only mobile phones that pursue thinness and functionality need chips with more advanced processes. Aircraft, tank or missiles do not need to pursue chip miniaturization at all. A friend of mine cooperated with the Ministry of National Defense of Singapore during his PhD. He knows a little about the requirements for military chips. According to his conclusion, there are several significant differences between military chips and commercial chips. 1. Cost. The ultimate goal of commercial chips is to make profits, so a cost-effectiveness issue must be considered. Although technical resources and talents are indeed in the hands of a few giants, there is also price competition among them. However, military chips are independently developed by each country and kept strictly confidential. All they want is only the performance of the products to be qualified. There is no competition between chips between countries, and there is no need to consider cost issues. 2. There is no strict requirement on the size. Not having strict requirements does not mean that there are no requirements. Of course, if you can make it small, you should try to make it as small as possible. However, if it cannot be made smaller, as long as it does not affect its efficacy, it is acceptable. In other words, the chip of your mobile phone cannot be made too large, and the mobile phone is so small that it cannot fit in it. But for a carrier rocket that takes off with a nuclear warhead and needs to hit a target 10,000 kilometers away, it doesn't matter whether the chip it carries is 10 mm*, 20 mm, or 20 mm*, 40 mm. It can be seen that in terms of process technology, there is no need to pursue 14 nanometers, 10 nanometers, and 7 nanometers. So, the design, production and manufacture of military chips does not require ASML's EUV, or even DUV. In other words, no matter how it is sanctioned, it will not affect the military field of China. 3. It is necessary to consider whether the chip can work normally in some extreme situations. What are corner cases? Extreme heat and cold, extreme dryness and humidity, electromagnetic radiation, high-energy particle radiation, etc. Normal commercial chips basically do not need to consider extreme situations, but war is possible in any environment. What if the climate is too humid in the tropical rainforest and the chip pins are short-circuited? The missile enters the stratosphere, the protection of the atmosphere is weakened, and it is radiated by high-energy particles in the universe. What if the chip goes on strike? These factors are to be considered. Therefore, in addition to introducing some semiconductor materials that are more adaptable to extreme conditions, it is often necessary to design a redundant chip system. There is no doubt that you need to know what kind of benefits the advanced manufacturing process will bring. With the same power consumption and the same size, better performance can be obtained. That is to say, under the premise of ensuring the same performance, the power consumption and size of the chip will be made smaller. Of course, chips are generally divided into civilian grade, industrial grade, and military grade. Their grading standards are not certain functional indicators, such as frequency, speed, accuracy, resolution, signal-to-noise ratio, and so on, but its reliability, such as the temperature range of normal operation. Civilian grade, 0-70. Industrial grade, -40-85. Military grade, -55-125. In addition to civilian grade and industrial grade reliability tests for military grade chips, there will also be high and low temperature tests, aging tests, and ESD tests, as well as very strict impact resistance, air tightness, and anti-interference. If it is aerospace grade, such as radiation resistance will be added. In other words, the improvement of the manufacturing process is not aimed at improving the reliability aspects that military chips value. On the contrary, with the improvement of the manufacturing process, the manufacturing difficulty also increases geometrically, which may also reduce the reliability. The most important impact is that the high and low temperature range for normal operation will be further compressed. In terms of design and manufacturing difficulty, military chips are the highest, followed by industrial chips, including automotive chips, and civilian chips are the lowest. For military chip applications, the advanced requirements mainly come from avionics, especially the needs of naval and air force avionics, navigation support, alert, guidance, fire control, flight control, inertial navigation, etc., the core of which is the radar system. For example, multi-mission mobile radar, and the demand in this field is also the first in terms of reliability, followed by efficiency, including power density. In short, the military standard chip manufacturing process has never been the primary consideration, but reliability is. You hit the missile to a certain height, and the cosmic rays crash your processor, what do you say? Therefore, the process and performance can only be sacrificed to meet redundancy and reliability. Therefore, backward manufacturing process is not a disaster. As far as I know, NASA used 65 nanometers for the recent 2 years. Why NASA does not use 14 nanometers, but 65 nanometers? Because NASA chips are really expensive, a 40 nanometers chip costs $2,000 per wafer. In order to keep it secret, NASA only makes half of it in one company, and then changes to another company to make the other half, giving a piece of $8,000. It is equivalent to 8 times the price of ordinary 40 nanometers wafer. And this 8 times the price, a large part is to pay for the reliability. In short, the most important thing about military equipment is reliability. Missiles deflected by 1-2 m or even 10 m will not affect the power, but when the missiles fly to high altitudes, the chip will be frozen or burned out, and it will be completely useless. Although 5 nanometers chips have strong computing power, their reliability must not be as good as 14 nanometers, 40 nanometers, or even 130 nanometers. Facts speak louder than words. Well, thanks for your listening, and please be free to put your comments below and share your insightful ideas. I am Tech Teller, the person to tell you the opinions that are worth spreading every day. Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. See you.